Aloha and welcome to Coffee with the Coach. This is coming to you live from the big island of Hawaii, all the way out in the Pacific. Mike, get in here, man. Let's talk about today and what's going on. First of all, now you don't jump the gun, right? The first thing I got to know is what is going on with the European Super League.
Well, reports are, Jeff, that you're interested in joining the European Super League. I'm not sure if this is I was trying to get a joke in there at the start, but I don't know what's going on, Jeff. It's crazy. I mean, could you imagine if the equivalent happened in college football or in the NFL? Like 10 teams came together in the NFL, or, I mean, let's say a group of 12 teams in college football, like, for example, Colorado, Stanford, or, decided to call themselves the Pac-12 or something. I mean, it would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Wait a second now. Colorado, if you're talking about elite college programs, right now Colorado ain't in that mix. But that is an interesting concept, and I know that it's been really controversial, and the fans have just been in the streets really trying to get is it going to go on, or what's going on? Because I can't overhear you. It's trying to figure out what's happening.
You're spot on there about the fans in the streets and stuff. It looks like it's off. Like there was a protest in London tonight with Chelsea and stuff, and a lot of teams now have pulled out. But I tell you one thing that it does show that goes through any sport, whether it's American football or soccer, the fans still have a say, regardless how big the game is or how big the teams are. The fans at the end of the day are the reason the league or the sport keeps going. And I think as a sport fan, you have to be even if you are annoyed at what's happened over the last couple of days, I think for me personally, anyway, it's great to see fans joining together, regardless of team they supporting one cause, and that is sport, which is great to see.
Hey, well, don't think I don't follow your Twitter, man, because I saw you fomenting revolt in the streets. All right, because you're a Liverpool fan, aren't you?
That's the worst thing you ever said to me, Jeff. I'm a Manchester United fan for my sins. All I said was it was disgraceful. It should never be allowed to happen again. And I personally think, to be honest with you, I think they should throw the book at them. And I think if it was any other league or any other sport, if it was the NFL, I think it would be the same for the owners. I think questions will have to be asked of owners that are NFL team owners as well, how they move forward with this. But it is great to see fans, the government all behind one cause, and hopefully it never happens in the NFL. I don't think it could legally.
Well, I don't think it'll happen in the NFL, but I do think you're going to see it happen in college football, because when you think about it, it's already happened to a lesser degree in that you have, the Power 5 schools. I'm talking about the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the ACC. Those schools, they're a completely different ballpark than the non-Power 5 schools, the teams in the Conference USA, the WAC, those schools. Financially, for all other reasons. And I think, as money is always the biggest driver of all these kinds of things, that you're going to see those Power 5 schools break away from the NCAA and actually start their own thing. I think that's been coming for a long time. Michael Grimes, it is outstanding to see you. But Mike, I got to say this, my man. I got to get you to help me here. We need to know where you're from when you send in your tweet, your take, your rant, whatever it is. Come at us, but let us know where you're getting to us from. All right. Fred Flunk, what up, tribe? Fred I know he's an Irish guy. He's got to be excited.
YouTube's popping, man.
Charles McBride from Canada. Charles, I mean, you're my dog. I know you, right? I know you're a Hamilton guy, but at least you gotta give me that, right? Oh, you a UK guy. Okay, Michael Grimes out to UK. Let's talk a little bit more before we get into the draft board, because it's a big day today with our draft board. Brandon Beam, this is a little NFL news for you. Brandon Beam says Josh Allen's contract extension will happen when it's supposed to. And I think this is really an indication of the kind of work Brandon Beam does. He knows he's got to please both the player and he's got to please the football team. He's got to create a situation where Josh Allen can be there, but it's not going to, you're not going to have a Russell Wilson situation like they had in Seattle, where he gets all the money. They got to get rid of the other good players that cost the football team. Patrick Mahomes says there are a lot of things he needs to work on in his game. That is very, very true. I think as great a player as he is, there's still a tremendous upside to Pat Mahomes. And it's going to be really interesting to track his career. Hopefully he can get through without injury. And, again, we'll see what that ceiling is that he has, because it is high. Steeler fans, you got Mike Tomlin, all right, through 2024. They got to be fired up about that. Consistency in coaching is critical for success. And again, the Steelers are the model franchise when it comes to consistency. Charles says, shout out from the Hammer, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Hey, man, make sure you wear a mask and social distance down there because I know they got a bad issue with COVID right now. Jordan Reed, because of concussions, is going to call it a career. Again, sad to see that. But again, these guys understand that your health is the most important thing. Alden Smith has gotten himself into trouble again, an assault charge in Louisiana. And then again, Deshaun Watson. Apparently 2 women have agreed to come and talk to the NFL about their suit against Deshaun Watson. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Kevin Stefanski, one of the head coaches that had a great year in his first year, and now he's experienced what it's like to be a head coach a little bit more. He's got his Players Association president, J.C. Treader, has been instigator of this off-season, work slowdown is what I would call it. And they're apparently having a conversation about how they can work together to make this happen. Titans players, they're all in solidarity. They won't go to work. I saw in Denver, there was a trickling of Broncos into the facility led by Drew Lock. What's the word in Denver, big man?
Your man, Dalton Reisner, who was on the show 4 weeks ago, actually came out a couple of days after the statement from the players came out saying that he was going to go to OTAs. He had a virtual training, and he had no issue with going to the facility. He was happy to do so. I seen Drew Lock was going in. I guess he needs to go and practice. So yeah, all good.
Hey, let's talk. That's really interesting, Mike. You talk about Dylan Reisner when he was on the show. One of the things he talked about during his interviews at the combine, one of the coaches, one head coach, stopped his interview and basically, I won't say threw him out, but he ended the interview when Dylan said that football wasn't the number one thing in his life. And isn't it ironic now that guy who got thrown out of an interview is going to work when other guys are saying, no, we're not working. So again, you got to be really, really careful when you do that. Owen Thomas says it's coffee time. Yep, sure is, my brother, but it's always coffee time with me. Owen, where are you from? Mike, can you straighten these people out?
He's in the UK.
They don't listen
every week. He's
Mike,
watching Facebook every week.
They don't listen to me, right? They're uncoachable. They don't take coaching, right? Because I'm just trying to get them to let us know where they're from. That's all I'm asking. Am I asking too much? Huh?
No. It's all good. It's all good.
Can you tell I had 3 cups of coffee this morning?
I think so, Jeff. I had one about 12 hours ago, and then just what you're saying there about Alden Smith, Fred Flunk said there as well. Is he our idiot of the week?
Well, it's a Fred is knucklehead of the week because. Oh, that's right. Owen is from Mumbles. That's right, yeah. Mumbles, Wales. We got Mumbles is in the house. All right, thanks, Owen. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm gonna give Alden Smith that honor because again, there's a guy that has to know after all of the things that he's been through that he's on thin ice all the time. Well, with the behavior police from the NFL, and you go out and get involved in an altercation. Again, I hope he, again, and it's real important that we understand. And Aaron Donald's situation taught us this: do not overreact until you know the facts. So, but for him, I certainly think if he's gotten involved in something like this, it is craziness at best. All right. So today we are going to look at the defensive backs. Now, this is really an interesting group in this draft, and I think if you're a team that has secondary needs, and I think there are a number of teams out there right now that are looking to upgrade their defensive back issue, finding guys that can play inside their scheme. And we're going to talk a lot about this, a little bit different format than just stacking our first 5. Spence, talk about these guys and why you chose to come at us with 8 guys rather than 5.
Yeah, Jeff, I think, we talk about this all the time, but now more than ever, with this secondary group, there's 3 really, core things that a scout does, when he's evaluating a player each year, and the first one is, and this kind of correlates to their team, is understanding, what that type of player from a football character perspective is going to fit with their team. You hear it all the time, the Patriot way, play like a Raven. What do those core intangibles mean? And they have to go into schools, find sources and try to verify that. And the second layer to it, which you also talk about in your show a lot, is the character outside the facility. What are they going to be when they become millionaires? How are their life skills? Can they pay bills? Can they make good decisions when they can, fly private and do whatever they want, when they have a day off? Like a lot of that goes into a lot of sources. But the last thing, and the thing we're going to get to talking about this DB group is understanding the scheme and the fit of what that player's being asked to do. And with the secondary, as Jeff, as a defensive coordinator, there's a lot of flavor to it, and you need to understand schematically how that player is going to be utilized in your building, in the good organizations. How do they do that? The same way they identify the football character. They'll outline it in the manual. They'll have seminars with their scouts. They'll integrate the scouts and coaches, to create that synergy. They'll have the coaches talk before the draft or postseason about, some of the areas of need and how they need to utilize those skill sets. And I think with the secondary, with all the ways we're seeing that you can deploy coverage, with the versatility, with the interchangeability of these players, corner, safety, it doesn't mean as much now, because you got guys that can do both. That now more than ever, when I look at this group, that's what it comes down to. It's not just 1 to 8. There's about 3 guys in one group that could go 1 to 3 in my opinion. Then you got 4 and 5 that may be based on fit. So it's an interesting group. I hope that kind of outlines kind of how I attacked it.
Well, it brings up a couple of things. Number one, Michael, put that back up there, that graphic from Fred, the thing from Fred, please. I want to give Spencer this one. Fred Flunk from Ireland says, "Sup, Spence? Keep dropping the knowledge, brother."
Appreciate it, Fred.
I'm gonna tell you, it's great to see that the fans appreciate what a 9-year professional scout brings to the show. Spence, you brought up something I think is really, really important, and I mean really important, because I'll give you a couple cases, historical cases, about what you talk about scheme fit, right? And for the fans, scheme fit means, does that player's talent fit into the scheme that he's going to be drafted into to play, right? Because there's 2 schools of thought. Number one, that you constantly change your scheme to adjust to your personnel, which is nice in theory, but really tough to do when you're dealing with. It's not like basketball where you got 5 guys on the court. You got 11 guys playing, and it's all got to mesh together. So scheme fit is important. Now, who can be outside of scheme fit? Maybe that great player, right? That Deion Sanders transcendent talent, and you just say, Deion, go cover that side of the field over there. But for other guys, they really need to fit into the scheme. I'll give you 2 cases in point. Nnamdi Asomugha, who's a young kid that I coached in the East-West Shrine game, and then went on and was drafted by the Raiders. Long corner, long arms from Cal, loved to play press. Because he was so angular, it was really difficult for him when he was playing off, to plant and drive on balls, right? So he goes to the Raiders. He has a really good career. He's a Pro Bowl player, and he plays excellent in that press man, up in your face style that the Raiders love to play. Free agency comes. He goes to Philadelphia to be part of that dream team that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and he's out of football in 3 years, right? He couldn't play off coverage, and they weren't a press team, and his skills didn't translate to that team out of football. Same story. Donnie Abraham, who was a very, very good, a very good cover 2 corner on those great Warren Sapp, John Lynch, Culpepper, Tampa Bay teams under Tony Dungy, gets a chance to go to the Jets for more money. The Jets are an off-man team and a press-man team. He's a zone corner. He's out of football in 2 years. So the fit is absolutely critical. So talk us through your clump. You put them in clumps. We'll use that term, clumps. Talk us through your clumps.
Yeah. So the first clump, and listen, this is the first time when I've scouted players and I've felt old, because I'm only 31. I'm not saying I'm old, but I grew up watching these players' dads play, and now their sons are coming through as top picks. So the first 3, and it's an interesting 3, I think they're all first-round prospects. They're going to be J.C. Horn, the son of Joe Horn, for all the Saints fans, and I think he had some stops in, if it was NFL Europe, Jeff, or I definitely know he was
in the CFL and in NFL Europe.
CFL. And then you got Pat Surtain Jr., who I loved watching his dad play corner. And this one doesn't have the lineage, but you have Caleb Farley, from Virginia Tech. So really quickly, I mean, all these three guys, I mean, they all have the prototypes, right? They're all over 6 feet, all over 200 pounds, 30, JC's got 33-inch arms, Surtain's got 32 and a half, Farley's got 33 and 3/8. So they got the size, they got the height, they got the length. So we'll get to Farley at the end, why he's at 3. But, when you look at JC and Surtain, because, with Surtain, for all the fans that do follow some of the mocks, I mean, he is the number 1 DB consensus, probably. I'm might be in the minority, having JC ahead of him. And Jeff, you touched on this point. I mean, why is JC ahead of Pat? Because Pat can do it all. He's so balanced. I mean, he can play press. He can play in a hold coverage and be a flat-footed drive player. He's really good in run support. Like, he checks all the boxes, and he's got the lineage, and he played in the SEC, and he has the pedigree playing at Alabama. I mean, he is easily the safest DB. But you watch JC Horn's tape, and when you talk about a guy, I'm not going to say he's Deion Sanders, but when you talk about what Deion Sanders can do, I mean, to me, watching JC, that's what he can do. He can lock up, and he did travel with the best receiver on each week and week out, and mirrored and matched, stayed in phase, smothered. He's big and long, and he can press. Really good ball skills, was tested. I mean, this guy played – it was really interesting, He went in and he actually only didn't play a full season because he was a COVID opt-out, but he unfortunately lost his aunt to COVID. He had his whole family catch COVID going to see him in this Ole Miss game. His aunt was high risk, ended up losing his aunt, and decided, for him, he needed to spend time with his family, I really respect that decision, and he was really forward with it. I was listening to an interview with him about it. But with JC, I mean, he played Devontae Smith at Alabama, held him to under, I think he was the only one that had over 50 yards on him. Then he goes and plays a guy that we talked about, Elijah Moore at Ole Miss, who's sudden, who's really not, those guys aren't great matchups, and is primarily a slot. So what does he do? He walks into the slot and locks him up and holds him to under 50 yards. I mean, he went and played Florida and matched up against Kyle Pitts. He is the best pure press cover corner to me in this draft. Now, he had some issues, and the issues were really just in zone. He got caught with some switches, just what I call is you're a little diagnostically delayed. He couldn't really understand that route awareness, like that stuff that can come, but when you look at the top corners in the NFL, when you look at Pat Peterson in his prime, Jalen Ramsey, those guys, and this is JC's got real swagger. I mean, he is tough. He's competitive. You watch the Auburn game. The Auburn game was the only game. So he had a pick early in the game, and then they catch him on a post where he's playing off and he's playing in shuffle, and the receiver stems him a little bit, opens him up, and wins a post. He recovers. He was there. He just couldn't make the play. He comes back, and they keep testing him. He has 2 PBUs and a pick on that same guy after that. He has that type of confidence to be on an island and to play. And listen, if I'm in a draft room and everyone's saying, well, Pat Surtain's the safest player, I agree. But when it comes down to it, how you make your money is when it's late in the game, sometimes scheme doesn't work. It's best on best, and I want my best cover player locking up that best cover player. I mean, he went in and played LSU against a guy that we'll hear about because he's going to be a top draft pick in Eric Gilbert, as a 5-star tight end. And they try to, match him up in the red zone on fades. And he handles that too. So just as a pure coverage skill set, man coverage skill set, that's why I have JC ahead of him and Pat.
Okay. Now, when you talk about JC, it's really interesting because Joe, his father, made the and it's, I think it's an inherited trait in the family, in the lineage. Joe never goes to college. He goes to junior college and then leaves and goes directly from junior college to the Canadian Football League. Now, when you leave junior college, you're at the most 19 years old. And I can remember him coming into the CFL and just, I won't say he turned it out, but he was a impact guy from his first day in the league and had a confidence that no 19-year-old player should have against grown men. And I think that's what I see in JC. I agree, Spence. If I'm a place that loves to play press, loves to play man, loves those kinds of guys, I'm going to take this guy right now. And I don't want to make a blurt comparison, but to me, when you look at what Brandon Staley did with the Rams last year, he took so much advantage of what Jalen Ramsey could do. And I think J.C. Horn gives you that same kind of guy. Now, I'm not saying he's Jalen Ramsey because he hasn't played it down in the NFL, but he gives you that kind of player.
I couldn't agree more. And I had in my notes is just how he moves and how he plays and the toughness and he's ear-holing guys after, he is mixing it up. He has that type of edge and the same type of athleticism and movement skills, and Pat Surtain is solid. He's going to be a great player in the NFL. He is. You can't go wrong with him. And really to touch on Caleb, why we didn't give him enough time was Caleb might be the best corner in the draft. When you put on his tape, he can do it all. And the interesting thing about him is he's the biggest, he's the longest, he's fluid, but he might be the most instinctive out of the three. He made some plays as a 6'1.5" guy out of a shuffle, carrying a route vertically and then having the awareness, the route rec to fall off and the range to play routes next to him, in different combos and make plays on the ball. He has that unique type of range, as a cover player. Here's the issue with Caleb is he had a knee injury, which is, wasn't a big deal, but, he missed, some good time for it. He was a COVID opt-out and, and listen, the teams are going to get the medical and decide how severe it is, but he just had back surgery. And that's scary, in this day and age. The back, is connecting you to everything. You're investing millions of dollars. So apparently it was just a day surgery. But, for me, kind of that's why I had him at 3 is that, he was a full year opt-out. There's a little bit of an injury history in the recent, he didn't test the recent back industry, the back industry scares me. But if a team's confident with his medical history, he can do it all. Especially from a coverage perspective. Pat Surtain, the only issue for me with Pat was, and maybe it was his curse of playing top competition, is he had some trouble in man kind of matching at the top of the route against some of these elite route runners he played against in the SEC. That was my only knock with him, was there's just a couple times at the top of his route he couldn't break and match some of those, elite top-end players that he's going to play in the SEC. But they're all 3 really, really solid prospects, with the injury history in mind with Caleb Farley. Yeah,
and Farley, I think, is going to, I hate to use the word suffer, but I think he's going to suffer from the reality that in this COVID world, the people are not going to, he needs to have great pro days. He needs to have great workouts. He needs to have great medicals to jump up into that 1-2 category like you were talking about. I agree. He's a if you want to say 1A and 1B, and then he's 2 or, just a shade below because of those issues that you talked about. Because I'm telling you, you're dealing in millions of dollars, but you're also dealing in first-round draft picks. And if you flame out a first-round pick, that hurts you for years to come, as many clubs will attest to. All right, give me the second of your clumps.
So the second pairing is two different skill sets, but kind of guys that maybe don't have the full package, like the first 3 that we talked about. And those 2 are, one's Greg Newsome, he's a junior out of Northwestern. And 2 is really another favorite NFL lineage player of mine is Asante Samuel Jr. Some of fans will remember his father, making a lot of plays in the NFL. So, but like I said, 2 different skill sets. So with Greg, you got a guy, he's 6'0", 192, really, really good athletic ability. Ran the 4.39, jumped 40+ inches, really good short area testing numbers. He's kind of got it all. And for him, he is the best off corner man for me in the draft. Really, really fluid and a sudden cover corner. He's got high end feet, to mirror and match, really fluid hips and just can stay in phase. And, he only played in 3 games this year, but he had tons of ball production in those games. The issue with Greg is one thing. It's the urgency and it's the willingness to, rally and play in the run game, and that can be an issue for some teams. There's some teams where if they don't implicitly trust the tackling ability of a secondary player, I mean, that's how guys get found, in advanced reports week in, week out, and they can make it difficult, especially with the type of playmakers they have in the NFL and how they deploy them, with scrapes and screens and smokes, and they'll find out if you can't tackle. And that kind of goes to the scheme where some teams, it really doesn't matter as much. So for me with Greg, the two narratives with him that I saw is, I thought his floor was Kevin Johnson. If people remember, Kevin Johnson was a first-round pick out of Wake, same type of skill set, fluid, a little wiry, because Greg is a little wiry, he's a little thin, and he's a first-round pick and got drafted by Houston and kind of battled some injuries, had a decent year with Buffalo, but again, never really kind of reached his potential as a first-round pick, but a solid player in the NFL. But some of those plays, some of that ability to match routes and to cover, in the foot quicks you see, it's not to the same degree, but it reminisces of a guy who's going to be a all-pro for a while in the NFL is Jair Alexander, out of the Packers, which Jair had elite short area quickness and explosiveness and suddenness, but Greg's not that far behind, and Jair wasn't known really as a high-end tackler, part of because of his size. And so, for Greg, I think that's just going to be the issue is like, can he detach from blocks? Is he going to be a willing participant in the run game? And if that's not really, that important based on how he's going to play, he's going to be a really solid player, where you have the other guy, Asante Samuel Jr., he's smaller. I mean, he's one of the smaller players. He's 5'1", 101, he's 5'10", 180 pounds. He's got 30-inch arms. So he's not really checking off those measurables. Now he's got the athletic ability. I mean, he ran a 4.41, he jumped and shuttled and that's kind of his game is he reminds me of his father for Asante Samuel fans. He has great ball reaction, really good route recognition. And that's that, what we call that flat-footed player, where when he can play flat-footed and see things in front of him, he has the explosiveness, the quickness to jump routes and jump them. And he's so tough and scrappy that even when he arrives, he's going to dislodge the ball because he arrives violently. He runs through contact, and he will mix it up in the run game at a 5'10", 180-pound guy. So it's interesting where you have Greg with this just unbelievable upside as that fluid off corner that can run with anyone. And then you got Asante, who's going to be more of that scrappy, like, could he play nickel? Yeah, but he's a corner, and he's a corner that it just has to be in that type of setting, that's going to excel for him. So two kind of interesting, different types of guys that I could see going in the similar range.
Now, this is important to NFL fans as your, of your team. As you start to do this, and everybody's doing their own draft, and that's what makes all of this fun. Think about what Spencer's saying here, because you got two absolutely different players. One is a guy that is truly a cover corner, and his heart is not in tackling, right? And there are a lot of guys in the league that are like that. There are DBs in the league that will tell you, I don't get paid to tackle, right? I get paid to cover. However, if your scheme requires that the corner show up in the run game, and offensive coaches have gotten to the point now with push cracks and, like you said, the smoke screens and all the perimeter stuff that we're seeing, that at some point you're going to have to come to the party. And I think that's really, really important. All right, give me your next clump.
Yeah, the next two, real quick, and they're both safeties, and proud to say one is a Canadian-born safety. It's going to be Javon Holland out of the University of Oregon and Trayvon Morig out of TCU, who was the Jim Thorpe winner, as the best DB in the country. So, I mean, the two. So why Javon? Why Javon is the number one safety? Because he really hasn't been mocked there by a lot of some of the draft analysts. And for me, Javon is the new age NFL safety. He's got that skill set that he can operate at all three levels. He can play in the run game. So at Oregon, they used him where he was more of a low player, kind of aligned in the slot, in the type of defense that they play. And, he was functional in the run game. He would take on tight ends at the point of attack. He would add in the box. And as a cover player, he was really instinctive, rallying as a low player in coverage. But, he had to play in the slot and cover in the slot, and teams tested him down the field. And I loved his ball skills. I mean, this guy is a really good athlete. He's fluid. He ran really well. He had great times on his pro days, and it shows on the field. and he was tested as a slot cover player, in man. And he could run vertically, he could flip, and he played, some of those bigger bodies, those tight ends down the field at the catch point, had some production. I mean, he was a returner for Oregon, early on in his career. He was a COVID opt-out, so he didn't play this year. He's a 2000, he's young. His best football is ahead of him. He is not the same type of player, but I want people to think about a guy like Antoine Winfield and the way he's impacted as a safety. I think Javon, they're very different players in what they do, but that versatility, I think, is going to be coveted, especially from the safety position in the NFL. On the flip side, you got Trevon, who, there was a reason why he won the Jim Thorpe Award, ultra productive, and his thing is just his instinctiveness and his versatility in coverage. I mean, he can play in the post. He can rob the middle of the field. He can align in the slot. And he just has such good anticipation and route recognition at the catch point to kind of maybe not the same athlete that Javon is, but he's around the football. I don't want to discount that, but, in the run game, he's solid. He'll run in the alley. He'll fill. He'll do the things the safety needs to do. I just wasn't inspired by it. And I didn't know what the upside would be of him being productive in the Big 12 and then having to translate that in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I think he's a solid second-round pick because he's a really good football player. I just don't know what his overall high-end ceiling is based on, where the NFL is going and what they're asking him to do.
Well, I think it's interesting with him because, he played it for Gary Patterson at TCU. And I do know this. He's been coached hard and he's been coached well. And I think there's a lot of value in that when you start talking about a player. Now, there's one more guy you got that I know we got 30 seconds for you to handle him because I know he's a guy you love. But tell us about this guy that's kind of he's not your number 8. He might be your number 1, really.
I do like this guy, man. Elijah Molden at the University of Washington. Like I said, he's not scoring in any of the probably 80th percentiles in anything. He's 5'0", 192 with 29.5-inch arms. He did a hammy at his pro day. He only ran a 4.6. I don't really care. Put on the tape. He is, and this gets so overused in our industry. He is the most competitive DB in the draft, hands down. He is urgent. He's active. He's a playmaker. And he can play anywhere. He flies all over the field, and I don't know how he ran a 4.6. Maybe he was hurt because he is all over the field. He is in every tackle. He is around every football. And the interesting thing about him is, he maybe doesn't have the size nor really like the high-end athletic ability to cover and match, but he's such a savvy cover player. And he's got that nice short area quickness and that ball reaction that when he sees the ball, he drives. He doesn't hesitate. He has that type of trust and confidence. He's in the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's a backside slot and he's scraping and adding into the box in the run game and filling on running backs. And he plays like he's 6'2", on the tape. I want to say I love him. And I'll be honest with you, Jeff.
Say it. Go say it. Say it. Just say it.
I love him. I love him. I got to say it. I love him.
Right.
I mean, you can listen. There is better athletes and better traits-filled prospects behind him. You got Tyson Campbell. You got the kid from Kentucky. I could name you 6, but I don't know how a team doesn't need to deploy this guy either as a nickel, as a slot, as a free safety. I mean, he may not be the same special athlete that the Honey Badger was, but he's the closest thing I've seen to him in a while.
Well, I'll tell you something. Those numbers are very similar to Honey Badger's numbers. And I know that because I recruited him in high school. I brought his tape to our staff at SMU, and we rejected him because we said he was too small, not fast enough. But there is a place for guys who show up on tape. All you need is one team to love you, and you got a chance. Spence, outstanding work. We're going to have you back next week. We're going to put our big board together. And as we go forward, last one before the draft, you've been outstanding every week. I appreciate you like crazy.
Appreciate you too, Jeff. Looking forward to it.
Take care. Aloha. See you. Michael. Now, do you know who the Broncos should take at DB now? You got a feel? If you don't know who the Broncos should take at DB and they need DB help, then what are you doing here, Mike?
Look, I'll tell you what, it's great to have Spencer's insight, but for me, I'm very intrigued now with Elijah Molden after what's was down in there.
Well,
I don't think I have no idea who we're going to take in the draft. Never mind DB. So that's a whole different discussion for next week's draft show. Draft show next week.
Okay. Well, now I'm gonna have to introduce Ma'a, because the guy who won the contest, and we're not going to use his name because we're not going to embarrass you on the show. But the guy who won the contest and should have been introducing Ma'a chickened out. I got to call it that way. I mean, he didn't show up. Didn't show up for work, Mike. I mean, what's up with that?
After Neil Dutton's one last week, I guess it's a hard act to follow. But what we'll do is we'll do it like 5 days before now. Next time we'll get a massive intro. But it still, Jeff, doesn't take away from the fact you got a great guest on here now. No,
we got a great guest and a great guy, because this guy right here, for all of you, is one of the really best human beings I know, and have had a chance to spend an awful lot of time with him in some really interesting environments. And I tell you what, here is not only what was a great football player, what is a great man. Ma'a Tanuvasa.
Hey, Coach Reinebold, how you doing, man? Hello.
Hey. How you doing? Malosi, my brother. Hey, I gotta ask you. We're gonna go in kind of a chronological order through your journey, and because it's such an incredible story, and I think there's so many things that we want to unpack along the way. We're gonna take questions, and we'll stay here. You know me, I can talk now. We'll stay here as long as you want to stay. But you're born in Niu'ili, in American Samoa or Western Samoa?
Yeah, Niu'ili in American Samoa.
Okay. Now, when did you move to Hawaii?
I came over when I was one years old, after I made my first birthday. My dad was already here on Oahu, already working until he was able to save up enough money to bring me and Mom over. So I came over as a child.
All right. So you grow up in Mililani,
yep,
which is where you still live to this day.
Yes.
Right. And you're coaching high school football.
Yes.
And doing a great job. And now, for fans that don't know, the University of Hawaii has a long, long tradition of great defensive linemen. And, you go back to the Larry Cole, who was a tremendous player for the Cowboys on their Super Bowl teams in the 70s, and Al Noga and Falaniko Noga, and on and on and on and on. Ma'a helped build that foundation. As the D-line coach, when I was the D-line coach at Hawaii, one of the things I made every rookie do when they came in as freshmen was they had to pick one player out of the past that had been an all-WAC or an all-American player, and there were a ton of them were drafted in the NFL. And they had to basically report about that guy to the rest of the players. And it was fascinating to hear the stories of, some really, really, really talented players who went on to play not only in the NFL, but, were Hall of Fame guys, really. And Ma'a, you were one of those guys, but it didn't really start out that way, did it? Your career?
No. I didn't start playing high school football till my sophomore year in high school. I was a kid living here on Oahu, just loved going to the beach, loved the water. And I was a coach, my coach Millwood, who saw me walking around campus down the halls and asked me, hey, you want to come play football? I was one of those park guys. I go to the park and play tackle football with the boys. But other than that, my mom didn't want me to play football. Like all other moms, they don't want their sons to get hurt. So I had to sneak off to practices. And then my dad was the only one that knew. Sneak off to practices, get practices. And then I guess somebody told my mom, we were at the supermarket or something, hey, you can go watch your son play this weekend. She was like, what?
You didn't
tell her? What are you talking about? No, she didn't know. My dad knew, but my mom didn't know.
Oh, what did mom say?
Oh, man, she was pretty hot about it. But once she got out there to watch me play, she knew that I was pretty good at it. And, it was history after that.
Now, again, for a lot of our viewers, and our viewers are all over the world, you come from a Samoan background. And in Fa'a Samoa, which is the Samoan way,
yes.
Family and your parents and respect are all very, very important to every kid and to every family. But for you to hold back from your mom that you were playing football, did she sassy you a little bit, or was she, or did Dad step in?
Oh, she was upset. I think she wanted me to be to go the religion route. She wanted me to be a pastor and, go to the church and do those things. But I just had fun out there playing football, and I'm just glad the coaches saw something in me. It wasn't just they didn't see me play football; they just saw my height. Just a skinny kid walking around campus, and they say, "Hey, why don't you come out and try play some high school football?" And once my mom saw me play, I guess that was it. Kind of got the comments from a lot of the parents that are around her and say, "Hey, your son is pretty good at this. You should let him play." And ever since then,
and again, for all our viewers out there, high school football, high school sports, but high school football in particular, on the islands is big time. I mean, Friday nights. I've been to Texas, I've been to Pittsburgh, I've been to Florida, and they've all got great high school football traditions. But I'm telling you, when it's Friday night on Oahu and the teams get together, it is like war. I mean, it is intense and it is important. And, the Mililani Trojans. Now, who was your big rival as a high school team?
Growing up was always Lelehua, because they were so close to us. They're about 2 miles, a little over 2 miles away from our school. So that was always the rivals. But now they divide the districts now by power rankings, and to make sure you have good teams going against good teams and not good teams going against teams that don't have too many kids that come out for football, just to make it an even playing field. But now we got our St. Louis's, we have our Punahos, we have our Kahukus, Waianaes, a lot of different schools there that are rivals now, and those are usually the top schools that always going against each other in the top division championships.
All right, now we're going to get to the whole Polynesian thing later in the interview, because I want you to talk about being in the Hall of Fame, and I want you to talk about the bowl game that you guys have done and all that stuff and where that's all going, because it's such a great story. But when was it that you thought that football was going to be your ticket to get a college education?
Oh, I'd say probably my senior year. I think my senior year when I was going against Lelehua, and they had this running back, Adrian Morrell, that was there. That played running back. Who also went to West Virginia. Yeah, and he got drafted by the Jets.
Yeah,
but I had a game where I was able to catch him from behind. He took an angle, and they said that was a game tape that helped me get my scholarship. And ever since from that game on, schools started coming by the school, and colleges started to come by and say, "Oh, who's this kid that caught Adrian from behind?" And ever since then, that really helped me out a lot.
Now, when one of the things that's changed about when you were coming out and what's happening now on the islands is so many more kids are going off island. Were you tempted at all to leave the island, go to the mainland, to go to school?
It was nice to have schools that came from the States to come and recruit me, but I just knew that I was gonna stay at home because I wanted my parents to watch me play. I know we didn't have the funds to go and fly across to the U.S. to watch me play games on weekends that we had home games. But we had good coaches there. Al Noga played there. Jesse Sapolu played at UH. I had some great idols, guys that I looked up to. Coach Miano was there, and I just knew I didn't have to go anywhere else to get looked at by the NFL. I could stay home, and as long as I did what I had to do, and like you said on your when you're talking to that other college, what do you call that? That was breaking down for the draft.
Yeah.
Or like you said, all you need is one team to like you, and the rest is history.
Well, you go to UH and play for Bob Wagner.
Yes.
And on a really, really good football staff. Bob Wagner was a great football coach. He always had great defenses. Paul Johnson was running that, I don't know, flex bone or whatever you call it, way before anybody was doing it. Mm-hmm. You guys go your senior year, you go 9-2. You win the WAC championship when the WAC was really a good league. Mm-hmm. And you go to first time ever off the island, a University of Hawaii team goes to a bowl game off the island, and you play Illinois in the Holiday Bowl.
Yes.
As a 9-2 WAC champion against the Big Ten Illinois. Did you guys feel you were going to win that night?
Oh yeah, anytime you come from the islands, you always have that chip on your shoulder, and to be out there, felt like we were disrespected by Illinois, saying that we don't play real ball out there, in the WAC conference, and going to represent the WAC conference, being out there and coming from the islands. I think that year Illinois had 7 players that were drafted, a couple first rounders too, and that was all the hype. They got all these guys that are going to get drafted, and who do we have? But, we knew we were going to go up there. We had some great coaching. Our game plan was set. And, as long as we played the way we did, we knew we weren't going to lose that game.
Okay. Can you remember the other defensive linemen on that team?
Oh, yeah. It was me, Junior Tongawai, Tase, Falmui. We were the front 3. And we had some other guys that came in and rotated. But we were almost like a 3-4 with that flex, like you said, that eagle front. And like I said, Coach Ellerson had a great game plan for us when we went in there, and we had a great game.
All right, now what Ma's talking about with Rich Ellerson is Rich gained a lot of notoriety when he left and went to the University of Arizona and created the Desert Swarm, which was nothing more than the eagle front that you guys played. Junior played nose. Tase was an end with you. Interestingly enough, I had a chance to coach both of those guys in pro football. So I've gotten to know you, and I coached them. And I'm going to tell you something. I swear this is a true story. Junior, one day in practice, the center was holding him. And Junior, how quiet he was.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you got him mad, right?
With the Mike Tyson voice, voice.
The little squeaky voice. He goes, stop holding me. And the center was trying to make the football team, right? So he holds him again the next time. So Junior kind of pushing goes, I told you to stop holding me, right? With that little tiny, you can hardly hear. And the guy, and Junior turns around to walk back to the defensive huddle, and the offensive lineman shoves him in the back, cheap shots him in the back. Junior turned around, and before you didn't even know what happened. He had the guy on the ground, reached down with one hand, and I swear to God this is true, Ma, grabbed him by the face mask and ripped his face mask right off of his helmet. And it was the craziest thing I have ever seen. And you talk about being Samoan strong. My man Junior was Samoan strong.
Oh yeah.
Now
that's Hercules right there.
You get drafted, right, by the Rams in the 8th round. How many rounds were there in those years?
Yeah, 8th round was the last round that year. I was a 208 pick.
Did you think you were going to go higher?
Oh no, I was just waiting for my turn just to get drafted. You have family at the house and think, oh man, I don't think I'm going to get taken. So I'm talking to Coach Jones on the phone because he was in Atlanta at the time. Say, if you don't get picked, we're going to bring you in as a free agent. I was talking to, oh yeah, okay, coach. No, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And then he goes, oh, wait a minute. Never mind. You just got drafted. I said, what? I just got drafted.
wait a second. You heard it from June?
Yeah. Coach Jones. He goes, wait, no, never mind. You just got drafted. I said, I just got drafted to who? Oh, the Rams just picked you up. I said, oh, okay, coach. Thank you, coach. I'll talk to you later. Hung up the phone, and sure enough, the Rams came up on the TV and said, oh, just draftee, 208 pick, Ma'a Tanuvasa. Sounded pretty crazy.
We got a ton of Falcon fans that tune into this show. So Falcon fans, I did not know that. This guy was this far
almost
away
a Falcon.
Almost being a Falcon. You go to the Rams. It's stacked against you because you're an 8th round pick. You're out of Hawaii. What did it feel like to walk into that environment? Right. Again, now I'm talking about a kid who born in Niuili, grows up in Mililani in Hawaii, stays in Hawaii, but now all of a sudden you walk into the locker room your first day with the Rams. Were you kind of in awe of it all? Was it like, oh my gosh, I'm here?
Oh, it was crazy. I just thought, like you said, being from the islands, I thought I had the chip on my shoulder. I was going to go in there and take somebody's position. And that's the first time I had the rude awakening. I walk in, first person I see is Sean Gilbert. And he's like 6'6", 330, 340. Like, oh my goodness. And then get on the field and go practice with him. Oh man, I've never seen a guy move so fast. He's like a big grizzly bear that can run. I'm like, oh, now I know I got my work cut out for me. I got to start getting into trying to follow these guys around, see what they do, how they go about their business, how they train. And I knew I had my work cut out for me then.
When did you think you were really going to make the team? When did you think that, you were going to be able to stick? Because, now today, if a guy's drafted in the first 4 rounds, he's going to stay. Back then, if you're an 8th round pick, they could cut you in a minute and not even worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, I knew strength wise, I knew I could keep up with the guys because I already broke the record at the combine with the 225 bench press, and when I got there, we had a 315 press for reps, and I did 29, and all the guys were like, "Wow, man, you did 29 reps for 315."
Wait a second, what? You did what?
I did, 29 reps for 315 when I got there. I've just been training in the weight room and stuff like that.
So fans, the test at the combine is 225 pounds, and if you do it 29 times as a defensive lineman, that's a great number. Mm-hmm. You did 315 29. How many times did you do 225, Ma?
Broke the record at the combine. I did it 43.
43?
Yeah, that's the first time I had a kid named Jeff Ganina who was after me. He was supposed to be the strong guy, the power guy.
Out of Purdue.
Out of Purdue. Yeah, out of there. And everybody was talking about him before I even did my test. Oh man, I wonder how much he's gonna do. How much he's gonna do. That was a rumbling in our during the day. But once I did that, I could just see it in his face. He was like, "Oh, now I gotta go try and be 43."
It's funny because Scanina was with Coach Vermeil both with the Rams and then in Kansas City, and really a good player for about 5'11", 300 pounds or whatever he was. Was a high school wrestler. So you open eyes at the combine with your bench press, and then in your pre-draft, in this time like right now, what was it like pre-COVID for a guy? And I know it's a little different when you're all the way over there on the island, but what was it like in terms of clubs talking to you about, putting their board together, where you fit, going through all that pre-draft stuff?
Well, I only had one club that came down and worked me out, which was the Rams. They came. Coach George Dyer came down and worked me out on our field there, and put me through some drills. I guess they saw some of the things that they liked that I did at the combine, and that was pretty much the only team that came down to work me out. But other than that, it was more calls with my agent, seeing where I would fit in, and that was pretty much it as far as after the combine.
When you were at the combine, did you go through the interview process? Were they doing that back then?
Yeah, different teams.
What was the craziest thing? What craziest interview question that you had to deal with?
Oh man, I don't even remember. It's so long ago. But I remember doing the. I remember not at the combine, but here at the Hula Bowl. When I played in the Hula Bowl, we had to do that Wonderlic test.
Yeah,
that was out here with the. I thought those questions were pretty odd. I guess it'll test your mental capacity or your capability or something like that. I was like, man, these are weird questions. But,
hey, fans, if you want to get a question to Ma'a or you want to give us a take, go ahead and send it in. Mike will put it up on the board and we'll get to it right away. You only with the Rams one season, and then what was the deal? You got waived, and then the Steelers put you on the practice roster, correct?
Yeah, I blew up my ACL my first year doing a preseason game against the Browns when Coach Belichick was a coach there. So funny story about that is we were playing the Browns. Last play of the game, I come up to make a tackle. My free safety runs into my leg and pops my knee. So I feel kind of a pop in the ACL. And then I'm laying there, and then the lights just shut off in the stadium. And I see one of my teammates looking at me. Are you okay? I said, no, something popped in my knee. I can't get up. So they start calling the trainers. And as soon as I'm sitting there, the lights go off. and then fireworks go off in the stadium. I'm just sitting there looking at the fireworks, like I think the trainers here or something. So I'm looking up, and then Pio Sangapo was playing for the Browns at the time. So he runs over and said, "Sole, you okay?" No, I don't know. Something's wrong with my knee. I can't get up. I can't walk. So there he calls the trainer too, and we're just sitting there. Wow, lights go off. I'm hurting, and I'm watching fireworks.
Welcome to the NFL.
Yeah, welcome to the NFL. That's funny.
Hey, Fred Flunk, who's one of our listeners from Ireland, has this question for you. He says, what was your favorite NFL town to play in and why?
Oh, favorite NFL town would probably be the Raiders. They've got some crazy fans out there that, they dress up the full, the mask on. They got the shoulder pads on, all that stuff. And
were they playing in LA at that time, or were they up in Oakland?
They were at the Coliseum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so they were
Oakland.
cross town from you guys.
Yeah. So we would go up there to actually that's when I was with Denver. So we would fight because they were in our division. So anytime we go up there, man, we always leave our helmet on because we don't know what they're going to throw at us. Batteries, coins, and all types of stuff.
That's a blood rivalry, isn't it?
Yeah, especially Coach Shanahan just left there, on not good terms when he went to Denver, and that was always a big game for us because Mike had some unfinished business against.
I'm going to tell you a story, and you can try and verify it for me. I heard it, and I want to know if it's true or not. But got another question. Put that back up, will you, Michael? I'm sorry, I missed it. Ma'a, what was it like playing with John Elway, Mark Schlereth, and Shannon Sharpe? This is Luke from Glasgow, Scotland.
Nice. What's up, Luke? Hey, yeah. My first day there at Denver at Dove Valley, come walking in our first practice, and I just see this tall blonde guy just leading the sprints with a lot of the vets. I'm like, man, that looks like John Elway. So I come out. Usually the linemen come out later to get their off-season program in or their training, and sure enough, it's John. Every rep, he's always in the front. Every rep, he's always in the front. Is that
right?
Oh, yeah. And from then on, I was like, wow. He's not a guy that, just sits there and gets on the stationary bike and, works out while everybody's working out. He's leading it. He's leading all practices. He's the one that has knows the temperature of the team, even during, training camps. Like, if he knows the guys are beaten down, he'll go straight to Shanahan and say, hey, fellas, a little break. They need some off time. And sure enough, he walks back in and says, hey, guys, take the pads off. And then we're going to have the next 2 hours is off. We'll come back for the second practice. I'm like, oh, man. So he really was the heartbeat of the team. And all those years he's been there. And a lot of young guys who come and, watch them, from afar. It's like, man, I couldn't believe I'm there with Elway and Sharpe and so many of the great players, Steve Atwater. And all those guys just walking there like, man, can't believe I'm with those guys.
Well, you know what? I did some research because I remember those teams. This is Luke. Thank you much for segueing us into the Broncos stuff. But I gotta ask, first of all, about Shannon Sharpe. Did he ever shut up the entire day?
That's my workout buddy. Was
he really? I tell you what, he is yoked up now.
Oh yeah, he still looks the same from when we used to play together. But every Tuesdays we always show up. We worked out together all the time, and everything wasn't heavy. It wasn't heavy reps, but it was a lot of reps, light reps. I mean, lightweight, a lot of reps, and that's how he stayed in shape. And I'm sure that's what he's doing now. But yeah, like you say, he is a talker. That was the funniest thing about him. And don't come wearing funny clothes in the locker room because you won't hear the end of it.
All right. Now, the thing about those Super Bowl teams, to me, right, is when I look at the rosters, and everybody talks about, well, rightly so. You got Ed McCaffrey, you got Shannon Sharpe, you got Schlereth, you got, really, really tremendous running back, and so everybody wants to talk about Rod Smith and the offense and scoring, all that stuff. But I looked at the defensive roster, Ma. You guys were nasty on defense. Trevor Price, Romanowski, Ray Crockett. I mean, there were some great football players on those Bronco teams. What was did you guys ever think about, who you were defensively, like your identity defensively?
You know what? I think Coach Greg Robinson, our defensive coordinator, brought the best group together. Guys who specialized in, I guess, who had different traits that performed well in the defense that he had. On our team, I don't think we had a guy that was over 300 pounds.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. He wanted, especially on our defensive line, nobody was over 300 pounds. Offensive line, Coach Alex Gibbs didn't want nobody over 300 pounds either. We're playing in an elevation. We got to make sure we're in shape. We want to be in better shape than the other team that shows up on that Sunday. And I don't know how many times I've played against offensive linemen and during the game, and you just see them throwing up on the field because it's hard to play in elevation, and we're just our motors are just starting. In the third quarter, we're ready to go. We're not even tired at all. Just being in shape and being having our weight controlled was everything to us. And the way we played defense, we had guys that were quick, guys who had a lot of great technique and who have come from other teams to make our team what it was back in those Super Bowl runs.
All right, now you mentioned Alex Gibbs, right? Who is universally respected but despised by defensive linemen around the NFL.
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, no, they didn't like that backside cut.
Oh man,
they didn't like that backside cut. That's a tough one.
That's actually he had to go in front of the commissioner on a couple of occasions to talk about the backside cut because you guys had run that zone scheme. And I mean to tell you, you'd watch the backside disappear on the ground. It was like watching a wishbone team. They just boom, 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 all across the line. Give me a Romanowski story because there got to be a billion of them.
Oh, probably the craziest one. I mean, it wasn't even on the practice field. It was in our meetings. So we would watch the meetings and, we're listening to the meetings, coaches talking. Then everything just gets quiet in the meeting room. Like, oh, what's going on? And then Romo was grabbing these needles out of his thing and giving his own self acupuncture.
Wait a second now.
Dude is giving himself his own acupuncture.
He had his own because the guy was an absolute physical freak. I mean, he was obsessive about his physique and his body and all of it, right?
Yeah.
But wait a second now. You're telling me that in a meeting in the facility, Greg Robinson's talking to the defense, and he's over there opening up his own box of needles, giving himself acupuncture?
Giving himself acupuncture between his thumb here, pulling on his forehead, on his ear. Because the room just got quiet. And I'm like, what is quiet? And everybody's just looking at him. And then we're like, oh, my goodness.
Mike,
that's the type of guy he was, man. He's always about his nutrition, make sure his body was at the right level that he can go out and there and perform.
All right, Owen Thomas from now I am not kidding you. This guy's from the town he lives in is called Mumbles in the country of Wales. Okay, wow. Mumbles, baby. Owen Thomas says. All right, Owen has this question: is your birth certificate wrong? 50 looks like you're ready for preseason, brother.
Yep, I'm the Hawaii 5-0. Literally, Hawaii 5-0. Thanks, brother Owen.
Now, repeat Super Bowl, right? That's really, really difficult to do because you go through history and there's only a very few teams that have been able to accomplish that feat. We played, I don't know how many Super Bowls we actually played, over almost 60 now, right? What was it about you guys that was able to get you back and win it again? Because it's tough to win it one time. It's really tough to win it two times.
No, I think it wasn't even those two Super Bowls. I think the one thing that we have on as far as players was the year before we won our first Super Bowl, 96. Is when we played the Jacksonville Jaguars in the I think it was the AFC, one of the AFC divisional playoffs. Fourth quarter, probably like a minute 46 seconds or something like that left. 4th down. John Elway's supposed to get the ball back. We were down by 3. Offense is supposed to get the ball back, but one of our defensive linemen decides to walk off the field. Penalty.
No way.
They get the ball back. 1st down, Jaguars, game over. Like, oh.
Did they cut him? Did they cut him?
Oh, no. This is a guy that they paid a lot of money to. So they weren't going to cut him. But he just didn't make it out of bounds in time, and Jaguars got the 1st down to secure the game. And it was like, man, if you would have got that one, John gets the ball back. Hopefully, we'll get down there. And, John is known for 4th quarter comebacks. And we could have had, possibly could have had 3.
I was going to say, it could have been a 3. Could have been a 3.
Yeah. But that was 2. The first one we won, that was like our owner said, Mr. Boland, this one's for John. And it really was with that helicopter spin that he had and try to get into the end zone. That's when we knew, man, this guy wants it. So that really got us going.
All right. Now, when you played with Elway, and I think it's important that his legacy and what he was, what he meant, obviously great athlete, even at the end of his career when he was all beat up, he was still a tremendous athlete, had an arm and could run, but somehow he had a way of, and I saw it when I had Doug Flutie, he was the same way. He just elevated everybody around him. And that as long as there was time left on the clock, you always felt you had a chance to win the game. Elway was kind of that way for you guys, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, his history is that, from college to pros, watching him when I wasn't there, getting to watch him when I played with him. You always knew you had a chance going into the 4th quarter if your team was, behind, that he would bring you back. A lot of the great games where he had against the Cleveland Browns, the Ice Bowl that they had brought the team back. So I think that was part of his legacy before I even got there. Got to watch that game through NFL films, and seeing that. You just knew that there was no quit in this guy, and being able to practice with him, you could tell why.
Yeah. You go, and time starts to run out on you in your career, right? And after the Broncos, you hung around a couple more years. Tell me about the end of your career, Ma'a, and when you knew that was finally time.
I broke my once I left the Broncos. I went and played with the Chargers. I was out there with Junior Seau. I was able to play a couple of years with him, but tore my ankle, dislocated my ankle. Had to get it fixed, and I tried my last year with Atlanta. Was my last year, 2002, and my ankle didn't seem right, so. I felt, it's time to kind of hang it up. My daughter was about to start high school, so we really wanted to stay in a place where we're able just to raise our family already, and be able to come back home and be around family.
Was it hard walking away?
Oh yeah. It was tough.
Can you speak to our viewers, if you will, a little bit about what goes on here's a guy. I mean, you started at 16. Some guys start at 6, but you started at 16, and football had been such a big part of your life through that whole period. It's how you made your money. It's how you fed your family. How were you able to not? I see so much of the time, Ma'a, it becomes who the man is, right? And then when it's gone, they go through a really, really tough time. How were you able to keep that from happening?
Man, I think I had a great family that supported me. My wife, I had kids. I was responsible for my family, and just being able to come back home, to be around familiar faces, and not being back in Denver where I didn't have a lot of family, or other states that I played in. Coming back home is a healer. Was a healer for me, and being able to coach football like yourself, Coach, being around kids and being able to inspire and watch these kids go through what they go through, knowing that I have advice for them, and being able to give them what they need as far as trying to get to the next level, and watching these kids go to college and come back and be productive citizens in our community. That was the end game for me, and being able to live through being able to coach. I think that was probably what it really helped me out.
Do you? Let me ask it to you this way: what's the biggest challenge that you feel as a coach? What's the biggest frustration that you feel as a coach?
Sometimes these kids think they know everything.
Oh, you too, huh?
Nowadays with social media, it's even crazier. Like, so and so does it this way, so and so does that way, and sometimes when parents get involved also at this level, it is pretty hard. But I think my background and what I've been through is able to get through to allow them where they respect what I've done and respect a lot of the things I have to say.
Is it different coaching today's kids as compared to when you were a high school football player? Do you think it's different for what today's coach faces as opposed to 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
I think it's probably good and bad, because a lot of these kids come into with with technique, but some of the technique might be bad, but some of them do come in, they know what the A gap and B gap and C gaps are, or what different techniques are. But other than that, just fine tuning what they do and going on from there.
All right. Now, I mentioned to the viewers before, as we started the show, that I had an opportunity to be around you in some unique environments. And one of the really special things that I've ever been able to do in coaching, people ask you what was the favorite thing you ever did in coaching, I would have to say going with June and Jesse and all those great Polynesian players, Jack Thompson, the original throwing Samoan, back to the island of Samoa and putting on those football clinics and taking the medical supplies back there on those missions that we did back there. That was absolutely incredible. And talk about your island home. Talk about you, because you'll always be Samoan, right?
Yes.
And it was so cool when we would go back there, because one evening it was always guaranteed one evening you were going to be with your extended family in Uili. And what did it mean for you to go back as an ex-NFL player to the island where you were born?
I think the first time we went back, I think it was in 2007. I think it was 2007, somewhere around there, or 2008. And I haven't been back home for since my high school years, which was 1987. I think it was the last time I went there. I've been back home. And I went there right before I graduated high school. And then I went back with you and Coach Jones for the football medical mission. But the funny thing about it is, it's me. I play NFL. Jesse has 4 rings. Jack Thompson, first round draft pick. But the guy who got the most respect was that guy right there, Coach Reinebold. That dude, Coach Reinebold, was the man. That's the first time I opened my eyes. Like, Coach Reinebold is the man. You go out there, and all these kids just rally around him, and his chants with those kids. The island of Samoa loves Coach Reinebold, and that really inspired me also, Coach, having you out there with us.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Ma. But when Jesse was on the show, and I love you guys like brothers, and Jesse was on the show, he reminded me that, remember, they had that yellow school bus to take us around. Now you got to understand, Samoa is not Hawaii. It's not the United States. It's not. It is very, very different, and they're the most wonderful, sweetest, kindest, givingest people I've ever been around. But we would travel around in a school bus, because there were no taxis and no limousines and none of that other stuff. So we were sitting in the back of the school bus on the way to one of the engagements we had to do. And I remember June come back and talk to you and you and Jesse about starting a Polynesian Football Hall of Fame. And from the back of that bus ride, today, if you go to the Polynesian Cultural Center on the island of Oahu, you can go through the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame. What was it like to get that done and to recognize not only every great Samoan player, but Hawaiians, Tongans, all the Polynesian players who have played in the NFL?
Yeah, like you said, on the back of a school bus, in order to get to one side of it, the other side of the island, you got to pass all these villages on the way there, and each village weren't signs of kings and kings or chiefs that came from that village. Signs over there was like so and so who plays in NFL came from that village. So you got names of NFL players at different villages that you pass by. So and so was from this village. So and so was from that village. So like, wow, you got all these. How proud of our community and our Samoan people, of kids that are playing, whether it's college or the NFL, that they recognize them. Like you go to the States, you go in Texas, or like, so and so NFL player is from this town or that town, and we're like, wow, yeah, that Coach Jones said, yeah, we need to come up with a platform where we can honor a lot of these guys that came before us. A lot of the NFL, a lot of our Samoan brethren, a lot of our Tongan brothers, a lot of our different Polynesian players that that I don't even know because they were before me, and I'm sure players who are playing now don't know my name unless it's found through Google or some social media app. Or coming to Hawaii and going to our Polynesian Football Hall of Fame, and knowing that, wow, okay, this is who my dad was talking about. That's the thing I get. Oh, when I talk to our players that come and play in our Polynesian Bowl, a lot of our high school players, I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to their parents, and their parents. I remember when you were at Denver and doing this and that. And like, hey son, come over here. This is the guy I'm talking about. Like, oh, so it's just pretty neat, and be able to have a platform where these kids can go and find out who was the first Polynesian player, or, oh my goodness, I didn't know, I'm related to so-and-so, that played for this team. So, it was something that needed to be brought up or needed to be done. And, with Jesse, myself, Coach Jones, Fai Sikahemo, Rina Mahe, and Troy Polamalu, we were able to bring that up. And,
Mikey, throw up some questions as we go through here. I don't want these guys to not get. All right, hey man, what's your elite athlete go-to superfood top tip from Cliffy in Scotland?
It's probably palosami.
Okay, palosami is a Samoan dish that is taro and rice and coconut milk. And it's referred to as the Samoan steroid because I'll tell you what, you want something to put a little weight on you.
That's it. Right there. With some taro. Yeah. All
right. Charles McBride says, Tumolao, Ungalele, two great prospects of Polynesian descent on the come up. Do you have any other young prospects to keep an eye on?
Yeah, that's why we started our Polynesian Bowl. Because we want to know where our Polynesian kids are at in the States. We know the kids here on Oahu because I'm here, but along the States we have a lot of Polynesian kids who are spread all across the U.S. Remember when we found AJ Epinesa out of Iowa, who's he's right there in the middle of the States, and as soon as our Polynesian Football Hall of Fame went out there. And then we started the Polynesian Bowl. We were able to have these kids come and, DM us through our sites, and also are a lot of the high school sports writers that are saying, hey, there's this Polynesian kid up here that you should take a look at, and he's doing great things. So there's a lot of great Polynesian athletes out there.
All right, Claire the Bear, and Claire is from the UK. You can hardly tell with all that UK flag, but I'm telling you, this lady is classic. She is one of my all-time favorites. She is the queen of giveaways. She is a dyed. I mean, you talk about a Bears fan. She is the Bears fan that I know. She says, with Samoa known for rugby, how did you get into American football? That's a good question because it is. Manu Samoa is a big, big deal. Their rugby team.
Yeah, they're from Apia, Manu Samoa, and the thing is, when we do our Polynesian Football Hall of Fame visits, we go to Auckland, New Zealand, and New Zealand is known to be the Polynesian capital of the world, with so many Polynesian players out there, but they all play rugby, and the one thing about rugby is once you get over 280, there's no more rugby for you. And
well, that's when a Polynesian kid's about 17 years old.
yeah. And so once they get to 280, there's no rugby for them. But that's at 280, you're perfect for American football out here in the States. So we go out there, try to give them a different avenue to go out there and look at what they call gridiron out there in Auckland, New Zealand. And if they can't play rugby, gridiron might be the sport for them.
I'm going to ask you this question. I asked it to Jesse, and he gave me a really interesting answer, but I'm going to ask it the same thing to you. The fans may not realize this, but statistically, if you're a 16-year-old boy in Pago Pago, American Samoa, you have a better chance to play in the NFL than if you're a 16-year-old boy in Dallas, Texas, or New York, or Miami, Florida, or any of the hotbeds of high school sports. Why is it that we have had so many? And I mean, you look at every roster in the National Football League now, you're going to see some Polynesian player on that roster, at least one. When you look at that and you see the explosion of the players that are playing in the game now, why is it that a Polynesian kid is so well adapted to playing football?
I should ask you that question, Coach. I remember you found this 16-year-old kid out there in American Samoa, name of Isaac Sapuanga, I think it was.
Yeah.
No,
but so let's talk about Sapuanga's story, because he was found playing volleyball, and when you watched him play, you go, how in God's name is a kid that big, that explosive, that athletic, and then kind of got channeled into football, then to junior college, and then to the University of Hawaii, then to the National Football League. But, Jesse said two things really to him. Number one, they're raised in a culture of respect.
Yeah.
They're raised in a Fa'a Samoa, which, as I said, translates to the Samoan way. It's kind of the code of the way families are together and kids are raised and parents look at each other and the whole deal. Fa'a Samoa, because now you're going to get a kid that's raised in a culture of respect, raised in a culture of discipline, raised in a culture of responsibility, right? That's one side of it. And then Jesse said this side. He said, because we learned to dance at a very young age. And he feels like, especially for offensive linemen, that the reason they have such great feet is because they're in cultures where they're encouraged to dance as infants. And I thought that was really an interesting answer. What's your take on that?
Yeah, our feet were already moving before we even did the ladders. Our slap dance is ladderish type. Our slap dance.
Okay. Wait. Now you know what you've done, Ma'a.
I'm not gonna do no slap dance.
You gotta give me just a little.
No, you gotta stand up and do it. I can't do it. I'm only 5'0" now.
Mikey, throw another question at Ma'a, if you would, please. I tell you. All right. Owen says one more time. Here you go. Michael Grimes, coming from Samoa at such a young age, how are you looking forward to playing football? Much love from the UK.
I think football was a product of my environment here. Coming over here as a kid, going through elementary school and middle school. That's all we had. We go to the football field, and toss the ball around and see who can tackle who. Who was the toughest out there. But that's how I got introduced, and was able to play from my high school years.
Well, you've been an awesome guest this morning. Now, we always close with the superstar guest with you got to realize what high pressure this was, right, today, because the guy who guessed you, right, like I put a quiz out, right, on Twitter, and I said, okay, this guy led. I think my thing was, I didn't say who you were. I said he led the Broncos in sacks 2 years in a row, has 2 Super Bowl rings, right? And then, I heard we got 4 or 5 responses. Then all of a sudden the guy goes, Ma'a Tanuvasa. And I went, and but that's how much he.
What was that mean? Well, did I answer it?
No. Yeah, maybe that's what happened. But I gotta apologize because, he was supposed to introduce you live, and he wilted under the pressure, right? But this is how we always close every interview. We go and play a little word association. So I give you a name of anything, and then you give me the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay.
When I say it. All right. So let's say Mike Shanahan.
Oh man, great coach.
Okay. Jesse Sapolu.
Guy I look up to. It's my idol right there.
Junior Seau.
Oh, sad. That was my guy.
The guy who wears the beer barrel at the Broncos games without a shirt on.
Crazy. Crazy. That guy's a great guy. Always good to see him. But yeah, he's crazy.
The National Football League.
Take care of their players. Have to take care of your players.
Okay. Ma, thank you so much, man. It is always great to see you. And again, you are like Owen said, you defy age, man. You look like you're the same guy that I watched play at the UH. So again, thank you so much for joining us and letting Broncos Nation have a crack at you. And I think you realize now that you made a huge impact on a lot of people's lives, and you continue to do that through what you do with the Polynesian Bowl, the Polynesian Hall of Fame, your high school coaching in Mililani, and you are truly one of the really good guys at the National Football League.
Thanks, Coach. You too, Coach. Love you, Coach.
Love you too.
Bye. Bye.
Take care. Hey, that is Ma'a Tanuvasa, man, oh man, oh man. God dang it. One of the really, really special guys that I've been blessed to have a chance to know through this crazy game of football. I mean, it's just incredible. He is one of the really class acts. And anytime you think that they're all guys that just care about money and status and all those other things, you run into guys like Ma'a and you find out that there's way more good guys in the National Football League than our knuckleheads. So, Michael, come on out here. Nice job.
That was good. That was good. That was really good, wasn't it, man?
What'd you think as a Bronco fan to hear about all those great times, all those great years? Does it hurt you at all? Does it make you pine?
I was lucky to go past. Thanks for all the messages, by the way, folks. I was lucky to see what happened 5 or 6 years ago now this year for 50. So I'm happy enough. It was funny to hear. Well, not funny. It was interesting to hear what he said about that Jaguars game. When you go to Denver and talk to fans, that is the one thing they say. Like a lot of people, and probably yourself, thought as well, Elway was finished after that Jaguars game. It was just interesting to hear his thoughts. But man, look, great interview, and I'm very pleased to tell you have reached over. Let's confirm this before I tell you the number. But man, it's been popping tonight. 5,500 people have watched the show.
Wow, that is so awesome. Hey, if you got any more questions, Mike and I will be around for about 5 more minutes to take a question or two if there are any of them out there.
There is a good few. There was. I just want to put it up here. There was a lot earlier on. Claire, obviously.
Magic Mike. There you go. There you go, Claire. All right.
One nice guy.
Truly is a good guy. Again, Fred, thank you very much. You guys that join us, the tribe that joins us every week is awesome. We appreciate you so much. And again, love to give you guys the opportunity to talk to these NFL guys, because that's a rare chance to talk to a player, obviously, of Ma'a Tanuvasa's magnitude. What's the Hickory's order for the draft coach? We're going to get back to you on that one, Alex, because we might have something cooking. Oh boy, that's a really good pun right there. We might have something cooking with Hickory.
You'll do very well to get food from the UK sent over to Hawaii in time. Maybe by the start of next year.
I'm going to take care of you. Why do you? You're my guy, man. I'm going to take care of you.
I'm not even sure if there is. I must check that, obviously. But I must see it. I'm sure they have something for the draft as well. Fred Flunk put this on whenever Spencer was on. To be fair, Jeff, a lot of people commented. I felt bad because we ran out of time. But one of them, Cowboys to trade down. Have you heard much about that?
Well, there's rumor going on about that right now, and there's some possibilities that, if the Cowboys, because Cowboys have multiple needs, particularly on defense, right? And I think that's where they're going to spend the bulk of their draft capital. If they can trade that one for a later one and another two, I would do it, because the opportunity to get quality players. We talked about there's 8 DBs that Spencer has on our board, and obviously, with the quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks going to probably go early. It's going to push other guys down. So you will have, in the second round, you'll have access to very, very good football players. And if you have a multiple needs team like the Cowboys are, certainly that's worth getting out of that 10th spot to get. But somebody's going to want to have to covet that 10th spot. Those are the kind of, when you talk about the 10th spot, Mike, I think those are the kind that happen almost on draft day, because you got to make sure that your guy's still there on the board at 10 if you're interested in trading up. All right, who else we got?
We've got a few ones here. There's one from Mikey, was said just around the times. If you're Chris Ballard, would you take the DT from Alabama in the first? Edge and left tackle are the real needs, I know, but it may be effective next to Buckner. I think that might have been a name around the time, but is there anybody that you think might suit there?
I think Mikey's talking about Christian Barmore from the University of Alabama, a big inside player. I wouldn't do that, Mikey, if I was the Colts. I think that he's a very, very good player, but I think for a defensive tackle, you can get. It's not a great tackle year in the draft, but certainly I would say a premier edge rusher or a premier left tackle is one available for the Colts. I would go that way. Take care of us.
I think he's done with the food, and then Claire's I want some barbecue.
Claire, I just got to tell you, I am making barbecue chicken tonight. This is Hawaiian barbecue chicken. I will send pictures of it out, and we are also going to make macaroni salad and rice, that's now you're talking about a real Hawaiian meal. Charles McBride, thoughts on Talanoa Hufanaga? SC, I'm going to tell you something. There are a number of guys, Chuck, that you brought up that are good players. When we stack, what you're going to see, I think, when we stack the draft board, when we go through, whether we do it as a mock 32 picks, between Spencer, Mike, and I, or whether we actually stack our top 50, what you're going to see is players are going to get pushed depending on depth and need ahead of them. So Tufanaga is a good player. Again, where he'll fit, I can't. That's a little tough one to say about right now.
Yes, sir. That's us.
All right. That's us.
That's the questions done, man. I don't know what the crack is with the draft. I know you're busy next week in Sky, Jeff, as well.
Hey, that's the other thing. If you're in the UK, tune into Sky, because we're going to have open up the channel again, Sky NFL channel. Neil's going to host a number of shows. We're going to have Will Blackman will be on with us. Baldy's going to be on with us. We're going to have a number of guests to talk about the draft, and we are going to give you a ton of draft coverage and then post-draft evaluation. We are going to be back next week at whatever time Mike can put this whole show together, and we're going to come at you with really what you can expect in the draft. So join us next week, and then after the draft, post-draft, we have an extra special show coming for you as we continue to grow this thing. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We appreciate you. We love you. Much aloha. Mike, what do we got? All right, my brother. There you go.